Hi everyone, and welcome back to the DeLorean Nation. We've got a cool new video for you today that I think you're going to enjoy, but I have a couple announcements we wanted to say before that gets launched. First is I wanted to mention our new website for the shop, DeLoreanMidwest.com. We're excited to be able to offer stuff online and have sales be able to go through a website versus just a splash page we've had in the past. And one of the things we're going to talk about is new DeLorean Nation swag, which Kevin will let you know a little bit about.
Yeah, so as some of you guys may have seen on the DeLorean Nation Facebook page, we had put a poll out with our logo asking for colors and asking about what people would like for swag. So we do have some swag. So we have zip-up hoodies, which is what I have on here, long sleeve t-shirt like what Mike has on there, and then we have just plain t-shirts as well in both green and red. So
yep. And so Kevin will show you those quick and then off to the video today. So thanks for tuning in.
Hey guys and gals, welcome back to DeLorean Nation. Mike and I are here at DeLorean Midwest today, and we're going to tell you the story of MSO Twins 663 and 664. These are consecutive VIN cars that for the first time in our possession that they've been sitting right next to each other. So Mike's going to go ahead and tell you the story of that now.
So I'm excited to tell you guys about the lore of these two cars. This story has been mentioned, and I've said it to a few people here and there over the phone and maybe in a small group at one of our open houses, but these cars have also been mentioned on the channel, but we've never really gone over them and told the full story, and I'm excited to do that here today. So to my left here is VIN 663. So this is a 1,623 mile car, and we have next to it a consecutive VIN 664. So this would have been, again, remember they started at VIN 500, so this would have been the 164th and the 165th car ever built. And these cars just have a neat pedigree that I wanted to share with you. Both of them were purchased in February of 1983 at a dealer auction in Anaheim, California, when they sold off all the DeLorean Motor Company assets. So the story goes that the auction was to have up to 88 cars that were company cars, owned by DeLorean Motor Company through a company called Chestnut Fleet Leasing. And we're going to get around to showing you some of the documentation on those, which is pretty cool to see. And these cars would have been used by DeLorean Motor Company for executive cars, for endurance testing cars, for cold weather testing cars, for the prototype Legend Turbo cars, for lending to magazines to review, and just various different things. Some of the QAC parts centers would have also been designated as certain cars that were part of these 88. And a dealership bought these in February of 83 and bought both consecutive VINs. The name of that dealership was Hodges Sales Company. And Hodges owns several dealerships in California. And we purchased these cars through the son of this gentleman who owned the dealers, Tim Hodges. And Tim tells the story of his dad bought these cars and kind of kept them as low mileage collectible cars. They bought this car with 1,300 miles on it. It now has 1,600 miles on it. And when Tim's father found out he was driving the car, he said, well, we want to keep those as collectors, and told him to quit driving them. We'll talk a little bit about 664 here in a second, but let's go over these documents and I'll kind of show you a little more on the pedigree and the documentation on these cars. So here we have a document showing Chestnut Fleet Leasing Corporation, VIN 663. Was transported into California on January 31st of 1983. And the city was Newcastle, Delaware. Then here's a bill of sale that would have been from the auction to Hodges Sales Company. Again, the auction date, I believe, was February 2nd of 1983. And California Auto Dealers Exchange sold this, and they were out of Anaheim, California. And then this is a neat document. This is what we call the MSO, or here it's, you know, listed on the document as a certificate of origin. So this is the title paperwork that would go from DeLorean Motor Company to the dealership. So these generally are dealer-only titles and would not ever be titled to an individual this way. Once a dealer sells the car, it comes off of an MSO, and these two cars have been owned by dealerships their entire life. So going back 41 years now, they've never been titled to an individual. So paperwork-wise, they're kind of considered new cars. They've never had an owner. Here's kind of interesting. It has a lien was satisfied that was from the Continental Illinois National Bank. I can only assume that Chestnut Fleet Leasing had a loan worked through an Illinois bank with all these fleet cars. That'd be, if anybody has more information on that, that'd be very interesting. But you can see it was on LaSalle Street in Chicago. That was the lender. Here we show again VIN 663. This would be the back of the MSO. Again, this is just a copy of the MSO. It's not the actual MSO, but shows it going through the California Auto Dealers Exchange, Anaheim, California. And this shows is kind of neat. Again, we have February 2nd of 1983. This car showing 1,368 miles. This car now shows 1,623 miles. So under 300 miles, this car has been driven since it was sold in 83. And we'll go over here and I'll show you some documentation on 664. So here's a document you can get from the DeLorean Museum that's kind of neat, and it shows that this was originally sold to Chestnut Fleet Leasing. Here we go again. This shows California Department of Motor Vehicles. This is again consecutive in 664, Chestnut Fleet Leasing Corporation. And this shows you it came into the auction house. They were documenting how long it was there on January 31st, and February was the auction day. So the California was keeping tabs on, you know, where these cars moved to. So this is a bill of sale again from the auction house going to Hodges Sales Company. So they were both sold to the same people, VIN 664. And California Auto Dealers Exchange in Anaheim, California. And then this is not a copy. This is the actual MSO, or as we have listed here, certificate of ownership, again from DeLorean Motor Company to the dealership that would have owned them. And it was Chestnut Leasing Corporation. And this is what's really neat on the back of this title. February 2nd, 1983, showing 12 miles. This car now shows 14 miles. And this one's a bit of an interesting one. It's a rough car. It is in need of restoration. The car is 98% complete, but there's some things that need to be finished off on this car. So it's funny, at first glance, this is one of the roughest cars here. But to me, when you see all of the documentation and the story behind this and the mileage on this car, it has the potential to be the nicest DeLorean I've ever seen. And it is the lowest mileage DeLorean, not only the lowest mileage I've ever seen, the lowest mileage car I've ever heard of. So that's kind of the story of VIN 663 and 664. These cars were stored in the high desert of California. The Hodges family had these stored in St. Elsinore, California for a long, long time until we purchased these roughly 2 years ago. And I really have been looking forward to getting this story out there. And unfortunately, 663 has been sold. And this car, oddly enough, is going back to California to a friend of mine named Mo, who's very excited about this cars. And we've done some work to these to clean up the stainless, clean up the interiors. And he's looking forward to kind of finishing this car off himself. So again, this car will get some new life and a new owner in California. And pretty soon here, these twins that have been side by side will are separated, and we'll still have 664. Again, this car is available for sale, and somebody who hears the story and likes the story of these cars as much as me, you know, hopefully will find this car. There is some neat history with these. You can see here, here's just one thing I'll point out. This car was probably used, this bumper anyways, was used at some point for a prototype high stripe. And they did several different versions of these. In one version, it extended into the front and rear fascia. And you can still see that on this bumper, original paint. And so there's some neat stories on this. The rear tires are 14-mile tires. You can tell they're gray wheels with the gray center caps, and the tread on these is what you would expect out of a 14-mile tire. As you can see, little nubs are still here, and the tread looks to be, you know, pretty much 100% there. The fronts at some point were changed out, so those are not the correct early wheels, and the tires have some miles on it. So at some point, those tires were probably, you know, sold off or used for a different vehicle. But anyways, a neat couple of cars that I was looking forward to sharing with you guys. I hope you like this yourself. Hope you like the story of these two as much as I do. And so we'll give you guys just a quick walk around and interior on this, which is 663. What's worth noting on this super early car is that this is a non-leather wrapped steering wheel. And a lot of the wheels look like this underneath, but it is a different wheel. And normally if you take the leather off, there is a seam ring right here. And so a lot of the early cars had these, what you call a plastic wheel or a non-leather wheel. Nice dash, nice binnacle on this car. Seats still look good. Great for being in, you know, California. And again, the high desert is going to keep the rust on the frame. The frame is immaculate on this car. Has some real early car stuff. It's got this, they blanked out the clock there. It's got a different stereo in this car. This car is more complete of the two, so it has the early wheels like you'd expect. Kevin, if you want, you can just do a quick walk around. Then I'll show you guys some, Kevin's around that one. We'll show you this 14-mile 664 as well. So something worth noting on this car is a lot of the early cars did not have the DMC emblem put on. So this grille is not showing a DMC emblem. This also has a plastic steering wheel in it. Kevin, if you make it around to this driver's side of this windshield, you can see some chalk marks on this car. And I'm not sure here, but I'm guessing that these were window chalk that was written on this from the auction house. So you can still see some of that white writing. And they probably numbered the cars, having so many DeLoreans there, of what VIN they were or when they were supposed to be numbered through the auction. If Kevin can come in here, this is pretty wild to see odometer reading 14 miles. And the other thing really neat to see here, again, very few early cars had stitched binnacles. So the factory did leather wrap some binnacles. And this is one of the factory leather wrap binnacles, along with, again, a plastic wheel. So Kevin, one thing we forgot, I'll just pan in here just because it's neat to see the mileage on 663 here. And let everybody see that. I believe this one shows 1623. Me and Kevin were talking about this 14-mile car here. Very well, this car showed at the auction having 12 miles on it, and I don't believe this car ever ran under the Hodges ownership. And very possible it's been pushed in its life around a garage or on and off trailers. We've pushed it around here some. It's probably had, you know, a couple of miles worth of pushing on here that actually racked it up from 12 to 14 is my best guess.
Yeah, we've moved this car several times,
yeah,
you know, in the last year and a half.
I'm guessing the Hodges family did as well. Yeah. And, you know, a few times a year pushing it across the garage, I'm guessing that's how it went from 12 to 14. So.